Many couples today quietly face something that they rarely talk about, a slow, almost invisible fading of intimacy. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens bit by bit through stress, exhaustion, and the daily grind. And quite often, men feel at first that quiet sense of disconnection, both emotionally and physically. But instead of discussing it, they keep it inside, thinking it's just a part of life or getting older. In reality, so much of this comes back to health, not just emotional, but physical as well. Modern lifestyles filled with poor sleep, processed foods, lack of movement, and constant stress all have a profound effect on hormone balance, blood flow, and energy levels. These things quietly chip away at intimacy and connection without us realizing it. The good news is there are ways to reverse it. Simple, consistent habits, eating whole foods, maintaining a healthy weight, getting proper rest, and staying physically active can help restore balance. Communication between partners also plays a vital role. Sharing how you feel without judgment can reignite trust and closeness. So today, let's talk openly and practically about why this loss of intimacy happens, what's really behind it from a health perspective, and what couples can start doing today to rebuild that connection they once had. In most relationships, intimacy doesn't disappear suddenly. It fades quietly, often unnoticed, until one day a couple realizes something has changed. The spark feels dimmer, the closeness less natural, and the small moments of affection become rare. This slow drift isn't usually about a lack of love or attraction. It's more often about the weight of everyday life pressing down on both partners. Silent stress, long work hours, emotional exhaustion, and physical neglect begin to erode the foundation of connection. Modern life is demanding, and couples find themselves juggling responsibilities, constantly multitasking, and rarely taking time to simply breathe and connect. Over time, these lifestyle pressures accumulate, and intimacy becomes one of the first areas to suffer. For many, this stress is internalized rather than expressed. Men in particular tend to carry their stress quietly. They may not talk about fatigue, anxiety, or emotional strain, believing it's something to handle alone. But the body always keeps score. Chronic stress increases cortisol levels, disrupts hormone balance, and reduces energy. The result is not only emotional distance, but also physical fatigue and lower motivation. When stress is constant, the nervous system remains in a state of tension, and the body prioritizes survival over connection. The mind becomes preoccupied with solving problems or meeting expectations, leaving little space for closeness or affection. Add to this the influence of modern habits, fast food, late nights, excessive screen time, and minimal physical movement, and it's easy to see how both mental and physical health start to decline. Processed foods, high sugar intake, and poor sleep all contribute to inflammation, sluggish blood flow, and hormonal imbalances. When a body isn't functioning optimally, neither is the mind. Fatigue replaces enthusiasm, irritability replaces patience, and distance quietly replaces connection. Intimacy isn't just an emotional experience, it's deeply tied to the body's health. When physical well-being declines, it's reflected in the energy a person brings into a relationship. Couples also face the subtle impact of emotional disconnection caused by overexposure to digital distractions. Even when they are together physically, their minds are elsewhere, on phones, emails, or television. The shared silence that once felt peaceful begins to feel empty. Without realizing it, partners drift into parallel routines rather than shared experiences. Stress magnifies this gap. When both partners are mentally and emotionally drained, they often misinterpret each other's silence or irritability as lack of care. In reality, it's exhaustion. This kind of misunderstanding builds invisible walls that block closeness. Silent stress doesn't only affect emotions but also physiology. When the body is constantly in a fight or flight state, blood flow shifts away from areas that promote relaxation and connection. The body essentially deprioritizes bonding because it believes it's under threat. This biological response might have been useful in ancient times, but is destructive in modern relationships. The longer this state continues, the more distant partners feel, even when they live under the same roof. What was once effortless now feels like work. Another important factor is the loss of self-care routines. When people are overwhelmed, they often stop doing things that make them feel good and confident. They eat whatever is convenient, skip exercise, and neglect rest. Over time, this leads to lower mood and self-esteem. When a person doesn't feel good about themselves, it becomes harder to engage warmly or confidently with a partner. Small irritations turn into arguments, and affection feels forced rather than natural. This is how intimacy quietly erodes, not through one big event, but through 1,000 small choices influenced by stress and fatigue. In relationships where stress becomes chronic, the emotional tone shifts from connection to survival. Conversations revolve around tasks and responsibilities instead of feelings or shared dreams. The rhythm of life speeds up, but the emotional connection slows down. Many couples start to feel like teammates rather than partners. They still care for each other, but the emotional intimacy that fuels closeness feels out of reach. This is where silent stress does its most subtle damage. It doesn't just strain the relationship, it reshapes it into something functional but emotionally flat. The physical environment also plays a role. Many homes today are filled with constant stimulation, lights, screens, background noise, leaving little room for calm and rest. The nervous system never fully relaxes, which means true connection rarely has the chance to emerge. Intimacy thrives in moments of safety and presence, not distraction and noise. When couples fail to carve out quiet time, the distance grows without either person intending it. Even simple things like sleep deprivation have a huge impact. Poor sleep reduces energy, shortens patience, and amplifies negative emotions. When both partners are tired, small conflicts become big ones, and empathy fades. The connection that once came naturally now requires effort. But because many people see these changes as inevitable parts of adulthood, they rarely talk about them. They assume that losing intimacy is just something that happens with time, when in reality, it's a result of unaddressed stress and neglected health. Modern culture also glorifies business, making rest and connection seem like luxuries. People feel guilty for slowing down, even when it's what their relationships desperately need. When couples prioritize productivity over presence, they unintentionally create emotional distance. The constant drive to achieve leaves little room for reflection or shared joy. And as this cycle repeats, both partners begin to adapt to a lower level of connection, convincing themselves that this is just normal. However, it's not inevitable. Silent stress may be invisible, but it's not irreversible. Recognizing how lifestyle and emotional strain quietly chip away at intimacy is the first step toward change. Awareness helps couples see that the distance they feel isn't a sign of incompatibility but a symptom of imbalance. Once they begin to understand how stress, routine, and health are intertwined, they can start making small, consistent shifts that rebuild the closeness they've been missing. Men's physical health has an undeniable influence on emotional connection and desire, yet it's one of the least discussed aspects of relationships. Many men experience changes in their energy levels, motivation, and mood long before they notice any visible signs of declining health. These subtle physical shifts can quietly reshape how they relate to their partners. Hormones like testosterone, for instance, play a vital role not only in physical performance but also in confidence, mood regulation, and the sense of vitality that drives connection. When these levels start to fluctuate due to age, stress, poor sleep, or poor diet, men may feel less engaged, less assertive, and less emotionally present. This doesn't mean they care less, it means their bodies are signaling imbalance. Unfortunately, many men are conditioned to ignore these early signs or dismiss them as normal parts of aging, when in reality they can often be improved through small but consistent lifestyle adjustments. Physical health affects the mind in powerful ways. When a man feels strong, rested, and energized, he tends to feel more connected to himself and more capable of expressing affection. Physical vitality naturally translates into emotional presence. But when health declines, it brings fatigue, irritability, and lower self-esteem, which in turn affect how he interacts with his partner. Over time, the energy that once fueled curiosity and playfulness in the relationship gives way to emotional withdrawal. Many couples mistake this change for a lack of interest or affection when it's actually rooted in physiological fatigue. The body and mind work together. When one weakens, the other follows. One major factor influencing men's health today is chronic stress. Long-term stress increases cortisol, which directly lowers testosterone and disrupts sleep patterns. When sleep becomes shallow or irregular, the body loses its ability to repair and regulate essential hormones. This hormonal imbalance can lead to reduced motivation, slower metabolism, and mood swings. These physical changes often go unnoticed until they start affecting daily life: less patience, more irritability, and a feeling of being disconnected from oneself and others. The cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Stress lowers health, poor health increases stress, and relationships begin to feel the strain. The emotional closeness that once felt natural starts requiring effort because the body no longer supports the same level of emotional and physical responsiveness. Nutrition also plays a deeper role than most people realize. A diet high in processed foods, sugars, and unhealthy fats leads to inflammation and unstable energy levels. These foods can reduce blood circulation, increase body fat, and impair hormone production. Over time, this creates a condition of low-grade fatigue that dulls enthusiasm for both daily life and relationships. On the other hand, when men shift to nutrient-rich whole foods, lean proteins, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, the difference in energy and focus can be remarkable. Better circulation and stable blood sugar levels support mental clarity and emotional steadiness, both of which are essential for maintaining intimacy and connection. A well-nourished body supports a calm, confident mind. Another significant factor is movement. Physical activity is not only beneficial for strength and endurance, it's also a powerful mood regulator. Regular exercise increases endorphins, improves sleep quality, and enhances self-image. It boosts testosterone naturally and strengthens cardiovascular health, all of which directly contribute to better physical and emotional balance. Men who stay active often report higher confidence and lower stress, which makes them more open, positive, and emotionally available to their partners. The simple act of moving the body, whether through walking, resistance training, or any consistent activity, helps release tension and brings clarity of thought. It's not just about fitness, it's about maintaining a state of well-being that supports emotional health and relationship satisfaction. Sleep is another cornerstone that ties physical and emotional health together. Without adequate rest, the body struggles to regulate hormones, manage stress, and process emotions. A man running on poor sleep tends to be less patient, more reactive, and less engaged. Sleep deprivation also suppresses testosterone production and increases appetite for unhealthy foods, creating a cascade of physical and emotional imbalances. Over time, this leads to burnout, a state where energy is low and emotional warmth is difficult to sustain. Prioritizing consistent, restorative sleep is one of the simplest yet most effective ways to rebuild both physical vitality and emotional stability. What often complicates this issue is that men are taught from a young age to appear strong, resilient, and unaffected. Admitting fatigue, anxiety, or low motivation can feel like weakness, so they suppress these feelings. This suppression adds emotional distance in relationships because partners can sense something is off but can't reach the root of it. Over time, the lack of openness creates a gap. The partner feels neglected, while the man feels misunderstood or pressured. In truth, neither side is at fault. It's the cultural silence around men's health that prevents honest dialogue. When men start recognizing that physical well-being and emotional connection are deeply intertwined, they gain the ability to restore balance not just within themselves, but in their relationships as well. Hormonal changes also play a part as men age. Testosterone naturally declines with time, but the rate of decline is heavily influenced by lifestyle. Poor diet, lack of exercise, excessive alcohol consumption, and chronic stress accelerate this process. Many men begin to feel less motivated, less confident, and less connected to their partners without realizing the underlying cause is physiological. On the other hand, men who maintain active, balanced lifestyles often sustain strong energy and mood well into later years. This demonstrates that aging doesn't have to mean losing vitality. It's largely about how consistently one cares for the body. Beyond the biological side, there's also an emotional dimension to physical health. When a man feels good in his body, he naturally exudes confidence and warmth. That confidence fosters emotional safety in relationships, encouraging openness and affection. Conversely, when health declines, insecurity can creep in. A man who feels physically unwell or unattractive may withdraw emotionally, fearing rejection or judgment. This internal battle often goes unspoken, yet it quietly reshapes the dynamic of closeness. It's why supporting physical health isn't just a matter of self-care, it's a foundation for emotional intimacy. Small, consistent actions can create profound changes. Simple habits like regular exercise, mindful eating, staying hydrated, reducing alcohol and processed sugar, managing stress through meditation or deep breathing, and ensuring proper rest can collectively restore vitality. These changes not only improve how a man feels physically, but also how he connects emotionally. When energy returns, patience grows. When the body feels balanced, the mind becomes more focused and compassionate. The connection between physical health and emotional closeness becomes clear. They feed each other continuously. Many couples rediscover their bond when the man begins to take his health seriously again. As energy rises and confidence rebuilds, communication improves, and affection flows more naturally. The key is awareness, understanding that emotional distance is often a reflection of physical imbalance, not lack of love. When both partners approach the issue with empathy and understanding, it becomes easier to support each other toward better health and a stronger, more connected relationship. Open communication and healthy daily habits can restore closeness naturally because intimacy thrives on understanding and consistency. Many couples, when faced with distance, try to fix the emotional side without realizing that daily habits and open dialogue are deeply intertwined. Communication is not just about talking, it's about being emotionally available, listening without judgment, and allowing vulnerability to exist safely between partners. When people stop sharing their inner thoughts, even small worries or frustrations, emotional walls begin to rise. These walls are often invisible, but very real. They block affection, reduce empathy, and create misunderstandings that quietly weaken connection. Rebuilding intimacy starts with creating a space where both partners can speak honestly without fear of criticism or rejection. It's about shifting from defensive reactions to curiosity, asking not, "What's wrong with you?" but "How can I understand you better?" The act of open communication releases emotional tension. When one person feels heard, they relax. That relaxation sends signals of safety, and safety is the foundation of emotional and physical connection. Most couples who lose intimacy over time haven't stopped caring for each other, they've simply stopped feeling emotionally safe. Constant business, stress, or unspoken disappointments pile up and make it hard to express needs or affection naturally. Communication resets that energy. Even short, honest conversations about how each person feels, what they need, and what they appreciate can start to rebuild trust and closeness. It doesn't require grand gestures, just daily honesty practiced with kindness. Healthy habits support this process because the body and mind are inseparable. When couples adopt routines that prioritize well-being, shared meals, walks, exercise, or simply spending time without distractions, they create micro-moments of connection. These moments signal care and presence. They remind both partners that they're not just surviving together, but living together. Something as simple as cooking a healthy meal together or winding down in the evening without screens can do more for intimacy than long, serious talks. The rhythm of shared, healthy living rebuilds both physical energy and emotional connection. Another part of this process involves learning to communicate beyond words. Non-verbal gestures like touch, eye contact, and small acts of service carry emotional meaning. A gentle hand on the shoulder, a smile, or a kind word at the right moment can communicate support and affection more powerfully than long discussions. The body responds to these gestures by releasing oxytocin, the hormone that promotes bonding and trust. That's why physical closeness and emotional openness work hand in hand. One reinforces the other. When daily habits nurture relaxation and mutual care, the body becomes more open to connection and the mind becomes more receptive to understanding. The challenge many couples face is that they wait until the distance feels large before addressing it. By then, small habits of neglect, skipped conversations, emotional avoidance, lack of shared routines have already taken root. The solution isn't to look for a dramatic fix, but to rebuild through consistency. Tiny daily choices like checking in with each other, eating better, sleeping on time, and expressing appreciation gradually restore balance. Communication supported by healthy living becomes a lifestyle, not an occasional effort. It helps both partners feel grounded and valued. Healthy daily habits also improve mood and resilience, making communication easier. When the body is well, rested and nourished, emotions are more stable. People become less reactive, more patient, and more empathetic. Couples who manage stress through exercise or mindful practices are less likely to let irritation turn into conflict. They can discuss issues calmly rather than defensively. A clear mind and a healthy body make it easier to listen, to understand tone, and to recognize what the other person needs. Without this foundation, even well-intentioned communication can turn into misunderstanding. Emotional openness requires physical calmness. A stressed body reacts quickly, while a relaxed body listens. That's why practices like deep breathing, meditation, or evening walks together can be so powerful. They calm the nervous system and make space for connection. Many couples underestimate how much the body's state affects their emotional world. The more relaxed the body, the more available the mind becomes for affection, patience, and empathy. When couples intentionally create daily rituals that encourage calmness, shared meals without rushing, spending mornings quietly together, expressing gratitude before bed, they build a rhythm of connection that feels effortless. Another important aspect is learning to communicate needs clearly without blame. Many relationships suffer not from a lack of care but from unspoken expectations. One partner might feel neglected or unseen but hesitates to express it, fearing conflict. The other might sense something is wrong but doesn't know how to respond. This silence slowly turns into emotional distance. Open communication breaks this cycle. It allows couples to express feelings honestly without turning them into accusations. Saying, "I feel disconnected lately and I miss our closeness," invites understanding, whereas saying, "You never make time for me," creates defensiveness. The goal of communication isn't to win an argument, but to build connection. Healthy habits reinforce this openness because they promote emotional stability. When people take care of their bodies, they think more clearly and react more gently. Nutrition, hydration, and movement all play subtle but vital roles. For example, regular physical activity reduces stress hormones and boosts endorphins, making it easier to approach sensitive conversations with patients. Eating whole, nutrient-rich foods helps maintain stable blood sugar, which keeps moods steady. Proper sleep restores emotional regulation, preventing irritability that can derail good communication. These physical foundations create the environment where emotional growth can happen naturally. Technology has also created new barriers to intimacy. Couples spend more time together physically but less time emotionally connected. Phones, social media, and constant notifications fragment attention and reduce presence, making it a daily habit to set boundaries with technology, such as device-free meals or an hour of undistracted time before bed, can make a significant difference. These simple choices tell your partner, "You matter more than my screen." Over time, these quiet moments of attention rebuild trust and warmth. Presence is a powerful communicator of love, even without words. Another layer of restoring closeness is rediscovering shared purpose. Many couples drift apart not because of conflict, but because they stop growing together. Setting shared goals, health, travel, projects, or learning something new reignites teamwork and connection. Working towards something side by side strengthens communication and adds excitement to the relationship. It also encourages accountability for maintaining healthy habits together. When both partners are invested in their well-being and their bond, the relationship naturally becomes more vibrant and resilient. Forgiveness and understanding play a central role too. Open communication doesn't mean every conversation will be easy. Sometimes it means facing uncomfortable truths about how distance developed or how habits were neglected. But healthy communication guided by compassion helps partners move through this honestly rather than defensively. Acknowledging mistakes, expressing appreciation, and choosing patience become part of the healing routine. The more both people practice this emotional maturity, the deeper their sense of trust grows. Ultimately, communication and healthy living form a loop that sustains intimacy. Good communication encourages healthy habits because it reduces stress and promotes cooperation. Healthy habits, in turn, make communication more effective by stabilizing emotions and energy. Together, they create an environment where closeness flourishes naturally. Intimacy isn't something that can be forced. It grows when two people feel seen, supported, and safe, emotionally, physically, and mentally. When couples nurture these foundations through honesty and care woven into daily life, they rediscover the connection that once felt effortless and genuine.